Hello everyone and welcome back to the Synergy Sanctum. My name is Justin. Thank you so much for stopping by. Here at the Synergy Sanctum, we specialize in all things related to Magic the Gathering with a specific focus on deck building. So I aim to show you very quick deck techs that'll show you all of the cards in the deck and how they work together to ultimately achieve the goals of that deck. If you're not already, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that. And we also have a sister channel now, so head on over to Commander Coliseum and check out their content as well. And for today's deck tech, we have another Halloween theme one with Clavileno, First of the Blessed, as the commander. Clavileno is a vampire tribal focused deck here, and he has a pretty awesome ability that is a replacement effect. So basically, whenever you attack, target attacking vampire that isn't a demon becomes a demon in addition to its other type, so it turns your vamps into demons. And then it gains this ability that whenever this creature dies, you draw a card and you get to create a tapped 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying. So just a really interesting effect here. We're not going to wait for combat damage to eliminate these vampires. We're going to have multiple sack outlets and ways of benefiting off of this ability to get a ton of draw and to just have a whole flying army of vampires on the field. A lot of the vampires that we're putting in the deck are the ones that you would expect in mono black and in white, and we are going to run through this deck today. So current TCG market value is $130 to $219, and we are running 34 lands, with 14 of those being basics between plains and swamps, and 20 of those being non-basics. So getting into it today, here are some of our vampires in the deck. So we are running an Elenda the Dusk Rose. Elenda the Dusk Rose says that whenever another creature dies, she gets a counter, that when she dies, you get to create a bunch of vampires equal to her power. Vampire Nocturnus forces you to play with the top card of your library revealed, but if that top card is a black vampire, or is black, then Vampire Nocturnus and other vampires you control get +2/+1 and have flying. Very likely it will be a black card. Edgar Charm Groom is here for the boost, and when he dies he transforms and then can basically come back again. Carmen Cruel Sky Marcher, really strong vampire, so anytime a player sacks a permanent, she gets a counter and you gain life, and then when she attacks you get to return a permanent whose mana value is less than or equal to her power. Really good, especially with our strategy of sacking vamps. Drana Liberator of Malachur is boosting everybody when she connects. Captivating Vampire is boosting everybody, but you can also tap 5 untapped vamps to turn something into a vampire and get control of it, really on theme. Cordial Vampire gives everybody counters when a vampire dies. Call to the Feast is just making you a bunch of vampires with lifelink. Charismatic Conqueror says that whenever an artifact or creature enters the battlefield untapped on your opponent's side, they can tap that permanent, and if they don't, then you get a vampire. And then Bloodline Keeper is a token generator, but he can also transform to boost your vampires on the other side. And then even more kind of vampire support in the deck, so we are running Sorin, Vengeful Bloodlord. Sorin's giving everything lifelink is why he is here, and then other effects on the Planeswalker. Cathar's Crusade, really broken in this deck. Every time a creature comes in, everybody's getting a boost. Maverin Fane, Dusk Apostle is saying whenever one or more vampires attack, you get to create a vampire. New Blood is letting you take something forever, turn it into a vampire. March of the Canonized is saying that when it enters, you get to create a bunch of vampires. Then at your upkeep, if your devotion to white and black is 7 or greater, you get to make one of those flying vampire demon tokens. So really on theme with Clavileno. Forerunner of the Legion lets you tutor a vampire. Legion Lieutenant is a lord boosting them. Indulgent Aristocat is one of our sack outlets, so you can sack one of your vampires that is designated as this demon from Clavileno, and then he's going to allow you to put counters on everything, and then you're still going to get the draw and the benefit from Clavileno, so really strong here. And then Elenda's Hierophant says that whenever you gain life, she gets counters, and then when she dies, similar to Dusk Rose, you're getting a bunch of vampires with lifelink. And then here's our additional life gain and drain in the deck. So we're running Veto. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, and he could also give everybody lifelink. Malakir Blood Witch, when she enters, she's draining everyone and you're gaining that amount. Sanctum Seeker says whenever a vampire attacks, everyone's losing a life and you're gaining. Exsanguate's a strong finisher. You're going to drain everybody for X and you're going to gain life equal to life loss. Marauding Blight Priest is consistent, pinning opponents whenever you gain. Cruel Celebrant is having it happen when stuff dies. Same with Blood Artist. Amalia Benavides Aguirre says that whenever you gain life, she explores, and then you get to destroy all other creatures if her power is exactly 20. Really, really strong there, especially if you've turned everything into demons. You're going to get a ton of draw off of that. Astarion the Decadent says that at the beginning of your end step, you choose one. You can have someone either lose life or you gain, and then Blood Tribute has a kicker. If you tap an untapped vampire, then target opponents losing half their life, and when it's kicked, you're gaining that amount. Really, really strong. And then bringing back the dead, so we're going to be, having some sacrifice themes. We're also going to be having a lot of combat triggers happening when these vampires die, so we want ways of getting added value. So Victimize is letting you get 2 out of the graveyard at the price for 1. Timothar, Baron of Bats. Whenever a non-token vampire you control dies, you can pay 1 to turn it into a bat, and then when that bat deals combat damage, you get to return that exiled vampire to the field. So really on theme, vampires turning into bats and coming back. Redemption Choir says that when it enters the battlefield or attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you get to return something 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield, kind of like a Sun Titan. Queen's Bay Paladin says that when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you get to return another vamp from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter, and you lose life equal to its mana value. So finality counters basically force it to get exiled when it dies again. And then Patriarch's Bidding, you can choose vampires and bring them all back. And then lots of draw on the deck. We're running a Phyrexian Arena to get us consistent draw at upkeep. Dusk Legion Duelist is another vampire, and when 1 or more counters are put on it, you get to draw once per turn. Pact of the Serpent, you choose a creature type, and either you or a target player is going to draw that many cards and lose that much life. Crossway Troublemakers gives them all lifelink and death touch, and then when they die, you draw if you pay 2 life. Knight's Whisper lets you draw for 2 life. Bolus's Citadel, not necessarily draw, but you can just play off the top of your deck, paying life for the mana cost. Minas Tirith lets you draw if you've attacked with 2 or more creatures. Baron Bertram Greywater is another sack outlet, so for 2 mana you can sack another vampire to draw a card. High Society Hunter lets you draw when a non-token creature dies, and then Blood Tracker, when it leaves the battlefield, you draw for each counter that was put on it, and you can put that many counters on it at the cost of 2 life and a black mana. And then even more draw on the deck. Welcoming Vampire lets you draw every time a creature 2 or less comes in, once per turn. Treacherous Greed lets you do it at the cost of sacking a creature that dealt damage this turn. You get to draw 3, and then everyone loses 3 and you gain. Vampiric Rites is a consistent sack outlet to draw. Takasha's Welcome lets you draw 3 mana value 3 or less enters once a turn. Vampire Gorman says that when he attacks, you can sack another vampire, and if you do, you draw, and then this creature can't be blocked this turn, talking about Gorman. Read the Bones lets you scry and then draw. Twilight Prophet isn't necessarily draw, but at upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, then you reveal the top card. Everybody loses life equal to its mana value, and you gain it. And then Preacher of the Schism says that when it attacks the player with the most life or tied for the most, you get a vampire. And then when it attacks while you've had the most life or are tied for the most life, you get to draw and lose a life. And then lots of removal in the deck. We want to control the board state since we are going to be attacking a ton. So we're running things like Vindicate to destroy permanents. Urge to Feed is our vampire removal here because it puts a counter on each of those vampires that you tap. And gives -3 to the creature. Patron of the Vein blows stuff up when it enters. Olivia's Wrath minuses X, where X is the vampires. Tragic Slip does a -13 if a creature died. Mortified can deal with creatures or enchantments. Toxic Deluge drains everybody for how much life you pay. Damn destroys a single creature. You can pay the Overloaded for 4 to blow up everything. And then Anguish Unmaking is another permanent removal and exiles it. And then a little bit of mana in the deck, not too much, but we're running the rocks in Orzhov, so Soul Rain, Orzhov Signet, and Arcane Signet. We're running a Dark Ritual to get Clavileno out even sooner. And then Master of the Dark Rites, a really strong vampire here, but she can tap to sack another creature. You're going to get 3 black mana, and you can only spend that on vampires, which as you can see, we are running a ton of them. And with that, our show has come to an end. Thank you so much for watching our video, and if you enjoyed that video, feel free to share it out with any friends who might find value in it as well. Thank you so much for stopping by. We hope to see you again soon. Have a good one.